got to go through a few more steps and be properly dismissed. And there's a lot more to do. But we're glad to have this step taken.
What are you going to do for Christmas?
I'm going to eat some pie. We're talking about.
Going to go home?
Oh, yeah.
Well, thank you and congrats.
Brian, it's nice to meet you. I'm from Scott Drexler's hometown, Chalice.
Nice to meet you.
Excuse me a second, can you spare some melatonin? Give me some melatonin, I'm Hugh. Nice to meet you, nice to meet you. Get some strength, there you go. You all right? I got you no matter what, all right? I told you I told the same thing, I'm going to. Yeah, here I come, I'm coming soon enough. Yeah, share some melatonin. You share some melatonin, we all get along.
Oh, there we go.
Do I live in Vegas? Get me out of here. I need about $100,000 in a good limo ride, and we can already watch the good squared off, all right? Take down the truck, just give me $100,000, we jump in the limo, we can talk it out professional business. Don't put everything on TV.
All right. This mistrial symbolizes and should send a signal to the public about
Well, that agency, they better be more careful. They better start recognizing.
Not more careful, but they need to not come out people.
Well, yeah, and say that be careful, not from us, but from in how they're dealing with the people in the public. The Bureau of Land Management is not a constitutional organization. It should be disbanded. It should be completely eliminated. The land belongs to the state and the people. There's no need or place for the existence of the Bureau of Land Management or many of these other federal agencies.
Do you think that the American public will take that message of this mistrial?
Not yet, no. I don't think this mistrial might move boards out a little bit, but I don't think this alone is enough. I believe that the people are beginning to see as they learn about the Constitution, about what our form of government is supposed to be. And so I continue to encourage that education so they can understand what we are as a country. And that this is a union. This is a union. We are not one nation. We are 50 nations that are united. The union is important, and the individuality of each state is important. And so if people will understand what we truly are is a union. That's the name, the United States.
Do you have any comments on, there was a lot of leaked material recently with the Root memo and then throughout the trial. Have you had any sense that there'll be repercussions for whoever?
No, I don't believe there will be. No.
Why not?
First of all, why should there be? That information should have been made public to begin with. There's not supposed to be secret courts and secret trials going on. That's anti-American. That's one of the protections that we have, to have a public trial. Sixth Amendment right to a public trial. And so these things that are being held and withheld, it was wrong for that to happen. And so how could there be any repercussions? And there shouldn't be repercussions. That material should have went out forthwith to begin with, rather than having to be leaked by somebody. But now that it was, it is what it is. So.
And what about, should we expect any, if there's a mistrial, should we expect any plea deals?
Heavens, no. Seriously? What kind of question is that? We've stood our ground for so long. We're not guilty. Why should we take a plea bargain to that? That would be against our principles. Against the principles of, anyway, it's just ridiculous. No.
Thanks.
My question is to them all, where were you in the beginning? Where were you in the beginning? When
Ryan, what about
these men are innocent?
What about the cattle? What's going to happen with the cattle that are there? I know some have been sold recently, but
well, none have been. The government, they gathered roughly 385 head or something of the sort. Of those, we've got about 350 of them back, and these are just rough numbers, not exact. 30 or so had been killed. Obviously, they're not coming back. But no, we're going to continue ranching. We have rights there on the ground. We own the water rights. We have grazing rights. We're going to go on with ranching. That's what we do.
And if there's another planned impoundment, what do you intend
whatever it takes to stand up for freedom. We'll do whatever it takes. That's what we've always said. That's what we'll continue to say.
And are you going back to Utah immediately? Or you're going to stay here and help with the ranch?
No, I live in Nevada, and I lived in Utah for a while, but I don't live there anymore. So I'm on the ranch.
Are you also going to be contracting or no?
I don't know, maybe a little stuff, but I'm not looking forward to getting into contracting. I still own some equipment. I'll still put that to work a little bit, but I'm wanting to focus on the ranch.
Could I ask you an interesting question, Ryan? Had the government offered you guys a plea bargain up to now? Have they offered you any plea
There's
bargain?
been some small talk of that, but I haven't seen anything official. And
I just wondered, you know.
You were speaking before about the independence of the 50 states. The way you understand it, what kind of rights do you understand the federal government has to enforce laws within each of the states? Like, how do you parse that?
It's all in the Constitution. If you want to know exactly what they got, read the Constitution.
Well, but there's differing opinions on it. I was wondering what your interpretation is.
Okay. Well, I believe the Constitution is not so subject to interpretation. Read it, understand it. If you want to understand what our founding fathers set up, then read the supporting document. Read the Federalist Papers, the Anti-Federalist Papers. Read where they learned about proper form of government. Okay, they set up a republic. This is not a democracy. It never was. It's a republic. When they come out of the Constitutional Convention, a woman asked Benjamin Franklin, "What have you given us?" And he said, "A republic, madam, if you can keep it." Okay, a republic form of government, as ours is set up, is only meant for a moral and righteous people, and is wholly inadequate for any other. And when we are not moral or righteous, then we can't maintain a republic. If we move into a democracy is just a debacle of a turmoil that majority rules, mob rules, whatever the mob wants to go to, that's what we go to, and we lose our founding principles, lose the principles that keep us true. Okay, and so a republic is founded upon a solid foundation of liberty, freedom, and is not to be monkeyed with by whims of the majority.
So, for example, when you guys were in Oregon in that situation, you would understand the Constitution as not supporting the presence of the FBI in that particular law enforcement situation.
Well, when it comes to law enforcement or it comes to authority, anything, we the people have the authority, okay? And we delegate our authority to enforce law to a county sheriff. It's the only elected law enforcement that exists, okay? And so I have to question, where does the FBI or any of these federal agencies obtain their authority? They didn't get it from we the people directly. And so I don't know how to exactly answer your question, but our authority goes to the sheriff.
So, I mean, this understanding of popular sovereignty that you're saying here, the moment everything that happened at your family's ranch, did that reinforce that understanding, or
popular sovereignty? I don't know what you mean.
Popular sovereignty. That's just a word for what I understand you as describing, that sovereignty belongs in the last instance always to the people. Well, that the people constitute power.
Sure. Well, and that's stated in the preamble of the United States Constitution, that we the people do hereby establish this government. Okay, that right there establishes sovereignty. Okay, the sovereign is the one who has the final say, who has the authority. In a kingdom, the king is the sovereign. But in America, the people are the sovereign.
So the people retain that sovereignty. They don't give it over to the government.
No, government is only a servant, and we have given the government, we have created it and given it certain tasks and duties and authority to carry out those tasks and duties. Those are all enumerated in the United States Constitution. Okay, and so to answer your first question again, what authority does the federal government have? Read the Constitution, particularly Article 2, where we delegate and give Congress certain powers.
I've got a follow-up question. So what we're talking about right now, do you have a sense of how much these ideas have resonated or people have picked up on them since this trial. Has this trial allowed you a space, in your estimation, to make these ideas more heard?
I believe so. I know a lot of people are watching. I mean, you guys are here right now watching and sharing with many. So yeah, a lot of people are hearing this. I believe it's changing people's minds and understanding of what our government is supposed to be.
Was the understandings of the Constitution that you have, and that this has given you a stage? Obviously, you've gone through a lot to be able to do it. But are these understandings that developed over the course of your life, or from when you were a child?
Well, I'm learning every day. I'm learning right now, and so yeah. Questions? Yes.
How much did your family's faith play into your decision to stand up against the government?
Very much so, because we do believe that our founding fathers were also inspired to create the Constitution they did. The principles that are espoused in our government, in the government that our founding fathers set up, is to promote liberty, promote freedom, and that is a very fundamental principle of my belief in God, that all men are to be free, that agency, personal agency, the ability to choose for ourselves how we will act in every given situation is an eternal principle that carries on through life, through now. I mean, that's why we're here on earth, is to be tested and to be tried. And so our choices matter in our eternal sojourn, so to speak.
How does it feel?
Do you believe the outcome of this and the Oregon stand-up will at all bolster your family's future moves to take similar stands that they did at Malheur and at Bunkerville?
We will stand for freedom always, and anyway, so I'm not quite sure what you're trying to get out of that question, but we'll always stand for freedom. Yes.
How does it feel that the LDS Church has continually said that they don't support the actions of the Oregon occupation?
That's not true. I'm not going to speak for the church, but I feel great support from it.
The ideas you were just talking about, the theological ideas you were just talking about, are there things, particularly ideas of Joseph Smith's, that have been important for you?
Joseph Smith was a great prophet, and so some of his stuff has been important.
Can you think of any in particular of his notions that have come to mind over the last few years and what you've been through?
Well, it was prophesied, Joseph Smith prophesied, that the Constitution at one point would hang as if it were by a thread. In other words, the strength that used to hold it up would not be there, that it would be almost into destruction, and that that this people was going to be upheld, that it would be this people that would do it.
Do you feel like then it becomes your duty as a Latter-day Saint to intervene in that crisis?
Absolutely.
And that's the White Horse prophecy, right?
Yeah.
That's not
I don't know.
I've
heard it. I've put it this way: whether the church calls it doctrine or not, we got quotes from several prophets reiterating that, and whether what the church's official position on it or not, I don't know. I take the words of the prophets, both modern and previous ones, seriously, and that's what I've read, that's what I've heard, that's what I believe.
When you were young, did you do a mission?
Yes, I did.
Where did you go?
Colorado.
In Colorado?
Uh-huh.
How would you characterize that time? Is that important in your life? Or
I loved it. I absolutely loved the mission. I first served in Denver. I went to Laramie, Wyoming for about 9 months. I went down to Colorado Springs and then Grand Junction, and I finished my mission out in Meeker, Colorado. And I enjoyed serving people. I enjoyed serving the Lord, teaching the gospel. I enjoyed it very much.
And your brothers and your dad all did missions too?
Not my dad, but all my brothers. My younger brother Arden is in Chile right now.
Right now?
Yeah.
He's very young, right?
Yeah, well, he would be 19, 20 right now.
He's in Chile.
I'm late to the party here, but what's your plans now, just today, going forward as far as...
Well, today, we're still working on having my father released from prison, and also to have the conditions that are upon us released. In other words, I still have this leg bracelet, and it's just not proper, especially at this point.
Are Are you still confined to like the county or to
Yes,
the state? To the county.
to the county. The curfew.
Who's taking over the ranch in the meantime?
My brother-in-law Clancy has been running the ranch for my mother, so my dad's still been giving instruction from Bill.
So water rights have come up a bit in this trial. Is it your understanding that if you have water rights that go back, let's just say to the 19th century, then grazing permits, whether or not they're canceled by the BLM, grazing can still be done if you have the water rights?
Well, first of all, who is the BLM? They have no right to be in existence, as we just talked about a little while ago. The land does not belong to the United States government. It belongs to the state and their people constitutionally. The rights that are created, the federal government has no right to issue a permit. Okay, if I have a right, it's my right. I don't have to ask permission to use my right. Okay, it's like if you owned a house. If you own a house versus renting a house. When you rent a house, you're there by the privilege or the permission of the owner.
So you're talking about the land that you're saying is state land, not water rights. You're talking about.
Oh, they're tied together to a large degree. The water rights, the water's no good if the cow can't have the feed to eat. The feed's no good if they can't have a drink to drink. So they go together. You can't have one without the other. Now, that's with the stock watering. Obviously, there's other waters that are used for other things, but with these springs and so forth out on the range that are considered stock waters, that's what they're for. And quite frankly, that land out there and the feed that grows on it is useless to man really in any other way. I mean, you're not going to go out there and make a salad out of the brush on the hills, but the cow can eat that and turn it into red meat that then can be used. And so they go together.
So you're saying if you do have beneficial use dating back for water rights, that does give you right to have livestock on them?
Yes, absolutely, I believe that.
Could you address how the cattle on the land is beneficial to the other wildlife?
Say that again?
How cattle on the land is beneficial to other wildlife, and how in fact the tortoise is benefited and not benefited?
Well, there's absolutely no scientific proof that cattle are detrimental to the existence of tortoise in any way, shape, or form. There's just absolutely been none. So the supposed conflict is a fallacy. It doesn't exist.
Could you speak a little to the role of the expansion of the city of Las Vegas in everything that happened with your family?
Well, yeah, because of this tortoise, they've taken up more land here that supposedly tortoise run on, and so they say they're going to create other land that's protected for the tortoise and therefore have an exchange. And it's kind of a really weird idea that doesn't work. The tortoises will live right here amongst the people. As you know, there's more tortoises being bred and born in people's backyards, so that the numbers are greater than what they were out in the wild. So what's the issue there? So there's not an issue. I'm done for now. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Ryan.
Have a good day.